Will everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're going to go ahead. We are missing Mary tonight. Mary Thomas is out ill, so unfortunately she can't be here. We do have Faye, our Secretary Pro Tem, with us again tonight for our minutes. Tim Grote is enjoying a nice warm vacation right now, so he sent pictures of his beach and rubbing it in, so he doesn't get to be here for the fun that we're going to have tonight. So I hope he's having a blast and relaxing. One thing we have to do that we missed last meeting is we did not approve the consent agenda. So we need to go ahead and do that first before we can move forward. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda from the last meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving right along here, we have the adoption of our consent agenda and minutes for this meeting. We need a motion to adopt the minutes. I don't believe we have some questions on our consent agenda as far as some of the financial stuff. With Mary not here, we can't get those questions answered, so we're gonna have to not adopt the consent agenda until we get those questions answered. But I would like to approve the minutes if council's all right with that. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any staff reports that we'd like to take a look at? I think Paul put one in there for you, Lee. I don't know if that's just for the deer crossing. We have a full staff on our public works, which is amazing, and things are starting to pick up for them. So, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, just other than.
Is that what you put in there? Okay, and we'll get to the rest of the old business as well. I do have to ask council, Mary approached me, she would like to take some PTO time, April 5th, 6th, and 7th, and as well as the 11th. So, I told her, it's your PTO, you should use it when you can, and so I don't know if anybody has a objection to that?
She's definitely earned it.
Yes, she has.
Sounds good.
Okay, all right. We're gonna move into the public forum. The first public forum is not for why 99% of you are here today. The resolution will be having its own public forum just for the sake of time. So we're gonna keep on moving along. I have one, is there anybody else that wanted to speak for this one? No? Okay. Diane, you wanted to come up and speak to us about the community garden.
Yeah, we just have a few questions. Looking at the Public Works printout from the agenda packet, the concerns that are listed is that the site is a secure area as it is near the city water treatment ponds, and MPCA does not allow public near or around the pond site. And that doesn't make a lot of sense because there's a city compost site there, and there's a public access road in there, so we're just questioning that. And then we'd like to know what the guideline is, the MPCA guideline, and if it gives like a distance that the garden would have to be away from the ponds. Also wondering, it sounds like there's a safety concern now. Hasn't there always been a safety concern about the ponds not being fenced? And then the other thing cited was that the gardens attract varmints, in which some are detrimental to the integrity of water treatment ponds. And the compost site can attract critters and varmints. They live under the brush. Our garden area will be faced. So that was our other question. It's like maybe we should have the MPCA come out and evaluate or assess it. What do you think of that?
Has anybody gotten a hold of the NPCA guidelines? We have a copy of them. I mean, we certainly should be able to get them.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, we could call too. We just, noted that these were the concerns listed and we're kind of wondering why.
Sure.
So, Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll work on getting that on Mary,
Okay.
I'll do it myself.
Yeah,
And then, we'll have that for the next meeting, because we're gonna have our insurance.
the insurance guy, okay, because, yeah, we're working on a survey, because that was our next step to do would be to, work on an interest survey for the community, so, okay,
Okay,
yep.
well, thank you, Diane.
Stay tuned.
All right, sounds good, thank you so much. All right. Any other public forum, any discussion besides the resolution? Okay, all right. We will move on to old business here. 2020, oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna talk about the
Oh.
street.
Okay, come on up.
I know this is on the agenda, but there is an invoice for 2 or 3 street lights, and for a total of $18,951. And it is dated from 4/29/22. And I believe that we already paid that, and now they're asking for it again. So I'm just wondering if you could look into that?
Yeah, I'll work with Mary when she gets back and ask her if we can pull up,
Because
the
it,
past
yeah,
jobs.
because in June, or May, there was a proposal, or a request for light poles, and it was for 2 at $12,882. And now they're asking for $18,951.
For 3 or for 2?
Well, this one's 3, and now, and this one, they're stating back at, this is 4/29/22. So that was paid already.
Okay.
And so but this is what they're saying on the new bill, it's from there. So, and if you can look into that, let me know, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right, we're gonna just move right into old business. Is there anybody else? I don't wanna skip anybody. Okay. Old business, so, we listed the 2022 audit. Basically, why it's listed is we did correct some of the findings that we had. And so, Mary worked really hard at getting Brad the necessary things she needed, some invoices, and we were really lucky that we got some of them removed, so, it went down to 5. After we did that, by doing that, it created a new finding, so it went back up 1. So, that's why it's on here. We did sign and already send it into the state. But I wanted to add it on there just so that we can let everybody here know, as well as the council, because it was myself and Mary up here dealing with that, so. Any questions?
No, I would just like to take the opportunity to point out the finding on meeting minutes, you know, that is obviously still there. And we did agree to work on that and get that resolved. The council did, when Brad was here.
Larry, anything public? Next would be the Schaefer Fire contract. I put it on there ahead of time just because I wanted to see if, you had heard anything back yet, Troy?
One thing, did we have to approve the audit update? There was a motion at the bottom of the.
Yeah,
agenda item.
we don't have to, we already approved the audit.
Okay.
These are just showing that we made changes.
Okay, yes, as far as the Schaefer Fire contract update, I have contacted Schaefer Township. They are looking over the updated contract, the corrected contract. It came in, I believe, about $6,000 lower once the correct sections were calculated. I'm waiting to hear back from Schaefer Township, from the clerk there, on whether or not the board will approve the contract or if they want to meet with us again. So I'm kind of waiting to hear on that. But Faith, the clerk at Schaefer Township, thanked me for my work, for the work we did on it. She didn't see any problems with it at this point. So hopefully we'll hear something soon.
Okay. All right, any other on the Schaefer Fire contract? Any questions, Larry? Oh, all right. Number 3 would be the city coordinator zoning administrator update. We've had 1 application. We have 1 week left of both ads running. We're gonna probably revamp how we're hiring for this position. And Mary and I and the rest of the council will kind of go back to the drawing board after this week, because so far we haven't got the right person. So we're gonna continue looking, but we do have a temporary help that's been a rock star for us. Her name's Michelle, so if you come in here, make sure you say hi to her. And she's doing great, so she's really helping out a lot. Any questions on that? All right, we have the hotel contract update. And Amy and I had an opportunity to sit down with our attorneys on a Zoom call, but I asked Amy to come up here, if you wanna come up here, Amy. We can kind of fill them in. So welcome to the community, I hope the new home's going well.
We're all settled in.
Yeah, good. I haven't spoke to anybody legally, I can't, so if you wanna tell everybody, or I can fill them in, whatever.
Sure, I'd be happy to give you an update. So as you guys know, we worked on this project for, pushing 2 years, maybe? I bet you know, Troy.
Yes.
Pushing 2 years. And, invested quite a bit of my personal funds into the project, and unfortunately did not get to anything that can be built reasonably, and in conjunction with interest rates and all the real estate nonsense that's going on and the bank's appetites to lend on hospitality. Unfortunately, I don't have anything that I can build here, and I no longer have any dollars I can invest into this project. Is sort of where I'm at. So I am asking, well, I mean, I'm out of contract now, so we have a cancellation, and what I'm asking is if you would pretty please consider a refund of the earnest money. In exchange, I'd be happy to share any and all of the due diligence, which I've done on the land. And, you know, if you have other developers interested or anyone who wants to put a project together, I'm certainly still interested in putting something together here, perhaps at a different scope.
Any questions, Larry?
Well, it's disappointing to hear that the project will not go through. All along, I thought that it would be a terrific addition to the downtown area, and wish we could, you know, figure out a way to move it forward. But it is what it is. So I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah.
Lee?
Sorry, it's not gonna go.
Yeah.
Attorney, can you fill us in a little more on her request for the earnest money? Is that something, this council can just basically make a decision on at this point?
In a transaction like this, you do have the discretion, if you choose to, not to keep the earnest money. Under the circumstances, and my understanding is that she's offered, contract was for a forfeiture, and of course, the letter that I sent, that you asked that I send, demanded, that the contract be terminated and that we keep the forfeiture money, but that doesn't mean that you have to. So it's up to you. I understand, that the applicant is now a resident.
She's just not a voting resident, but she lives like just outside.
Unfortunately, just 3 miles from town.
Okay, no,
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there, I suppose, in terms of legal
No,
relevance. but
she's part of the family up here. so
Something
yes.
you may wanna consider though, and it's up to you. I mean, it's, right now, otherwise, it's your $30,000, but these kinds
No,
of
it's $10,000.
oh, that's the lawyer in me, I made it 30.
Okay.
10,000, I'm sorry. That does explain why you were suddenly turning very, very white.
I'll say that, yes.
But anyway, the $10,000.
Yeah.
This is something, you know, most people that have had involvement with real estate transactions in their lives know that this earnest money is often advanced and in fact often returned in residential transactions. In commercial real estate transactions, that is less common. But again, that's something you could do if you chose to.
Yeah, I will make that, I'll make a motion to, just have a vote or discussion, and a vote on either approving or denying Ms. Hill's request for her $10,000 earnest money.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we can discuss returning the earnest money to Ms. Dills. Troy, you made the motion.
I
go
get to
ahead.
start?
Yep.
Great. Thank you for your initiative and taking the steps that you did. I know you're very excited about having something get going with your hotel in that area. As you do know, I was not in full support as things went along the way. I mean, I think we're on our 4th extension on the contract. That's correct, okay. And I guess I'd just like to bring up to the council with the last audit we had and the financial situation we're in, I think we should do whatever we can to hold on to any assets we have at this point. As long as it's a legal thing to do and we haven't breached any contract, I guess that would be my position on this. But I do want to thank you for your involvement in the community, and I anticipate it will continue going forward, so,
I live here now.
right?
Yeah.
I think we should give her earnest money back with the condition that, she shares the boring tests and all the testing and such. She's a lot invested in that, so, but then that would help out anybody that would look at it down the road. And appreciate your coming to the community.
Thank you.
Oh, I'd be in favor of giving her the earnest money back. She came to the city with a great project, put a lot of energy and effort into it, and, you know, we're good neighbors, and we would like to be known as a city that attracts, you know, additional business and projects of this nature. So I'm sorry that it didn't work out, but I think we should give the money back.
Okay. I see two options, and what I've been thinking about, giving the earnest money back or, keeping part of it to pay for our legal expenses that we've incurred, in December. It's a check that I saw written out, but, my gut and my heart tells me that we should give it back. Because I don't know what happens behind closed doors with you, Amy, but I feel like you had a good idea and a good heart necessarily, and it didn't work out. Might not have been done the way that, everybody would have done it, but, I don't believe that you should necessarily be penalized for that, so. That's all I have to say. Any other discussion? Okay. All right.
Good.
All right, we need to vote. So all those in favor of returning the earnest money to Ms. Dills, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, website update. I know there's a lot of people wanting us to have a website, and we've been working really hard on it. We have one proposal that we got from a local business, Well Optimized Web, in the packet. I did get another proposal just at 1:30 Friday, so we couldn't sneak that into this packet. So unfortunately, we'll have that on the next packet. We also are waiting for two others, so we're gonna have 4 proposals. The people that I've spoke with, all but one, is willing to work on the current site with our team in office. So 3 out of the 4 wanna just build a new site. The one that we currently have, is $3,900, but then, Becky handles everything, so she's gonna take everything off the plate. We have a site up and running, she's gonna monitor it, she's also gonna help us add all the information onto it. She said that might even change and get a little less, depending on, if we wanna go, if you look at the back, if you guys have this in your email, if not, if you want one, we can get it for you. But, she kinda gave us like a layout, and she said if we went with the back side of this, the layout, it would be cheaper than the $3,900, so, that's what I have. We haven't really seen anything. I guess we have to kinda wait until we get the other 3, but, you know, they're coming, and I have one. And I could speak to it, it was $8,600, and that was the one to monitor our site and build the current site. So, think of that, we've already spent $7, another $8,600 on top of the 7, when we could spend 39 and have a site up pretty quickly, I feel. But we can't make a decision tonight, still waiting for two. Mr. Mondale's crew out of Minneapolis is going to give us a quote, and then we're still waiting for Bolton and Mink as well to give us a quote for the website part. So, any questions on the council?
Well, it's a big deal for the city, and it's an important deal for the city. Residents have been asking for it for a long time, we might as well just get the right proposal and do it correctly.
I agree.
Do we have, I'm sorry, is there an ETA then about when can we give these people some answer to the questions about the website that they've had for 2, 3, 4 years?
I'm tempted to have them just shut the old site down, to be honest with you, but, my goal is to make a decision on the first meeting in April, whether we wanna continue building or create a new one. So,
And we'll be able to pick a contractor at that time.
yeah, that's what I wanna do, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so we'll keep this, we'll just put it in the next packet, just so we have all 4 in front of us, we can make a decision, okay, as a group. And Tim will be back hopefully by then, and not on another vacation, but, you never know. But that's what we have, so I know there's been some people upset about it, and we are too, so we're getting there. Baby steps, but we're getting there. Next would be the streaming of council minutes update. I'm gonna let Lee talk to that, he was up here today working with some people regarding that.
Yes, I've talked to a couple people and had them out and looked at what we have here right now. Everything was put in over 20 years ago. And, things need to be updated a little bit. I got a approximate price from, Music Connection in Forest Lake for the equipment and the video, and then, myself and Brandon would volunteer our time to put it in, and that would keep us below $5,000 for the system. Then we get it streamed out onto YouTube. So we have one other price come in at $13,000, so this is a little bit better.
So, wasn't there, I recall there's some conversation earlier on in the previous administration about, using Midco and having them stream it on the public access that we've already paid for, who, the citizens already paid for through their cable bill. Is that a possibility still, or do you know any idea of cost on that?
I was going to go to their meeting, but their meeting happened to be tonight.
Okay.
But, there's really, from the way I understood it, there's only like 3 using them to do it right now.
Yeah.
And there's still a possibility to do that.
Okay.
So that would be, once we're set up, be able to stream to that too.
But we'd still have to procure our own equipment, is that right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's kind of where we're at on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
As far as Midco though too, we should probably go back and get them in here because the last council never had them come in and redo the agreement, so we're on a basic agreement, so I'll reach out, I'll have Mary give me her contact information, and then we can go from there. I'd like to have them come in there, cause if we get the equipment, they might be able to help us get it up.
Yeah.
So, cause not everybody has YouTube or Facebook Live or anything, so we should get it on the cable as well.
And that's part of our contract already with Midco, it's ready and waiting, so, the citizens are paying for it, so we might as well utilize it.
All right, final old business is the community garden. Diane kind of shared where we're at with that. We were told that because of the location, basically, environmental protection doesn't want us to have, the garden next to the holding ponds because there's no fencing. In my eyes, that's why, but they also don't want rodents and runoff going into the holding pond of gardening, so. We gotta do more research on that. Did Paul share anything else with you on that by chance? Anything?
That's the information he had told me.
Okay. So I think what we need to do is, I took notes from Diane, we'll reach out, we'll get the actual information. Maybe we can get somebody from there to come up and, help us, cause I wanna see the community garden happen. I just wanna do it correctly and make sure that it is very successful, so.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, was there a discussion about the secondary site, or we don't even wanna go there right now? You like, I mean, I like where it's at too, and I think we have some really good questions about, you know, why is this a problem now when it hasn't been before, right? So we should get those questions answered first, but.
Yeah, it would have to be city-owned land, and we don't know what all the city has. That
Well, we
would
had
be a sunny
conversation.
location and access to
We
water.
had a conversation about the business part too, but there was, I guess, some objection to that.
Yeah,
The-
because
the
you have to be
closest-
able to expand the garden, and
Yeah.
if businesses come in there, I mean, it didn't seem like that was the best spot. Plus, I don't know about the soil with, you know, there's a lot of roads and pavement in there or something, I don't know. But
One advantage is the water's there though.
that's true. Well, yeah, we'll have to see what else you
I had-
think would work.
I was out looking at it, and I had thought that maybe we should get a hold of, XL Energy in that long stretch along their road there, going to that station, to their,
Yeah,
you know, if you look out there, they got the trees planted, but it's a nice wide stretch going all the way back there.
okay,
You know, maybe we could get them to be involved in it,
okay.
you know, that's just one idea too.
Okay. Sure,
And then there's the city waters just right across right there.
right.
Another
Sounds
possibility.
good.
All right, any more discussion on the garden? No? Okay, we're moving on to new business now. The first thing on new business is zoning and ordinances and planning services. We did receive a proposal from Bolton and Mink. They're here with us again today, as well as Lynn. Lynn's been doing a tremendous job in really helping us out. He's asked to,
You get the hot seat.
you could pull one of these out if you want.
No, I can speak loud enough.
Okay, so Lynn's been helping us, thank you so much for coming up again. These guys have been a wonderful partner, so I'll let you guys take from here.
Sure.
And, we'll ask questions after.
A little bit of history, basically, I came in to help out while we were trying to hire a new zoning administrator, and it's taken way longer than I expected. And I kind of put a due date of April 6th, I'm stepping away, and that's because Mary's taking some time off. So I was gonna leave us open for some planning, okay? Now, we've been trying to hire a planner out there, but if you look out there in the, like in the careers on the, League of Minnesota Cities, you don't hire a planner unless it's a $100,000 a year job. So, it's very spendy. So the alternative I came up with, I'm thinking, and I hope that, this will work out with Bolton Mink, is that they'll actually do our planning services for us. And they prepared a proposal for the zoning, or for the planning part, separate from the zoning, that they would take care of any planning issues that would come up. And I think they're pretty well connected to the community, and I think they do a great job. And also, it's gonna be far less than hiring somebody here to be on site. Also, with that is that, what was I gonna say? If we decide to go with them, anything that involves planning could be part of our fees, that we recoup the cost of the planner into the fees. So if you apply for a zoning, let's say, conditional use permit, put it in there, it's $150 plus planner fees. So you put $500 retainer per se, $150 for the permit, $350 for the planning services, and hopefully we can cover it for that. And then it basically covers itself. But that would be something after they're hired and that we'll have to work with. But I think that, that would be something that could be worked into the fee schedule. So anyhow, I'll let him explain the planning services before we go into the zoning court part.
Good evening. So again, my name is Harry Davis. I'm a planner with Bolton Bank. I'm familiar with a few of the faces when I was here for planning commission, but it's good to meet you all, or all as one. But In terms of planning services, so for your planning team, it would be Jenny Faulkner, who is senior planner with Bolton Mink, myself, and then a junior planner. We currently have in there Franny Mousen, but it could really be any junior planner. The roles that Jenny, myself, and a junior planner would have, Jenny would be your main point of contact. She would be the person that is sort of responsible for what goes on within the team, making sure that reports go out on time, making sure that if there are any concerns that we're able to address them. For me, it would be a lot of your day-to-day work. So if there's anything that, you know, if you have an issue and you want a zoning, some sort of planner's perspective on a zoning issue or anything that's development related, you could call me and I'd be happy to pick up, happy to answer however I could, and if I can't, at least go out and find the answer for you pretty quickly. And then for the junior planner, Franny in this case would be helping out with putting together reports, sort of just putting together a lot of the more smaller, more administrative things. So, you know, building permits, if you wanted to start doing planning inspections, you could, you know, you know, further with this particular team, you know, if there are any issues that you have with zoning code, you know, sort of apart from the zoning code update, that would be something that we could help work on, that we could move through, and with the city attorney's help, be able to put together some sort of ordinance or resolution, you know, sort of whatever is needed in that particular moment. For Jenny, I believe she has, I think it's like 30+ years of experience. For myself, I'm getting closer and closer to 10 years, but admittedly, I'm probably somewhere between 7 and 8 years. And then a junior planner, Franny in this case, would be about 2 years of experience. So, quite a bit of a range, yeah.
Question, planning, would you work with our planning commission that we already have in place with the city, or?
Absolutely.
Okay, so how would your planning supersede what we do here in the city on our own, with our own commission? How would you work together?
Sure, and, you know, some of that question might be with.
I think, yeah, well, right now it's more being the zoning administrator. But we're gonna talk about zoning codes here in a little bit, and the conversation we had.
Okay.
But I figured you just keep one section at a time, then we'll go into the zoning part, if that's all right, Larry.
Yeah, no, that's good.
And then we'll address that.
Yes, basically, this is my plan, if we don't get any more applicants to utilize, possibly, to utilize these guys, and then we can create a new job description or a new idea.
All right.
So that's what we're talking about. I
Yeah.
should have said that, I apologize.
And Mr. Mayor, you know, at least from my own perspective, you know, just being able to administer zoning code and kind of understanding a little bit of the ramifications of potentially going and making interpretations one way or interpretations the other way. You know, myself, Jenny, Franny, we've all been doing this in other communities throughout Minnesota. In fact, I have some experience in some riverside towns, particularly Wabasha, which also has a lot of bluffs and a lot of shoreline issues. So we're able to kind of work through those different issues, and that way inform you and the planning commission the best, so that you can make the right decision.
And I'm just looking at the rates here. What you're discussing, this is our $185 per hour for Jenny, right? $138 for you, and I'm just curious, if you hand this off, then the rates change? Is that how that works? Is there ever a time when you and Jenny are working together?
There are moments, so like if, say you were to receive a development submittal, right? And so Jenny may look at it and say, you know, hey, let's maybe review together, or why don't you take a first stab at it and then come back to me, and we'll kind of go through any of the particular issues. So like, let's say, for example, there's, just to come up with a random example, like tree mitigation issues, or if there is an issue with what the use is and what the zoning for that property is. I would probably be the one to do a lot of that digging and sort of a lot of that figuring out, particularly with sort of my experience level. I'm very familiar with that part of administering zoning code. And then I may go back to Jenny and say, hey, does this make sense to you?
Okay.
So Jenny's involvement's gonna be, more, definitely smaller than my own.
Right, and I mean, the reason I'm asking is it's very possible that I'll be looking at your invoice very
Right.
closely, okay? So are the hours separated out, everything's itemized where we can see who's been doing what at what rate and everything, right?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, if you would like to see detail, that's something that we can set up.
If we had a lot of big developments going on, I'd say by all means hire a full-time zoning administrator, but ours is pretty limited right now. We've got some conditional use now in the pipeline that needs some finding of facts done. We got another one, possibly here, that's here tonight. And we also have, a zoning issue that could be contentious between public and private that I've been made aware of. So I'd really like to see these folks brought online to take care of the zoning. The planning part, the taking care of the permits that we need to go through, I think, would be an asset to the community instead of hiring somebody full-time to do that. I think part of what you wanna talk about, in terms of that position that you got advertised, maybe changing the title of it, so, but I think that would be beneficial to the city.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. Can you repeat that salary again for a zoning administrator, what you just did your estimate?
Yeah, if you look at Minnesota League of Cities, it's $100,000.
I'll do it.
I bet. And you're not paying me that. So, I mean, it's kind of specialized, and with anybody with experience. Now, Steve came on, did a job because he did it as a retirement, not full-time. It's hard to find those people anymore that want to step up and do that on a part-time basis. So I think you brought up Michelle earlier. She's a great asset to the city. I think, I'd like to see her take on a little bit more. I think she'd do okay. Getting them the information is the big thing. So anyhow, I'd like to see him hired tonight if we could, but if you guys felt comfortable doing that, because just not just do the findings of fact for this, permit downtown, conditional use permit, but also for the next one in the pipeline. And also get on board before we get hit with this other zoning problem that we may have, so. I
So
feel very
just
comfortable.
like process, we would just have Mary or Michelle email you when the requests come in. Just forward it to you and then you contact the individual and take care of it from there. Okay.
Yeah, and then, if there's a planning commission that you would like us to attend, we're more than happy to come out and to provide any answers to any questions that either planning commission or you as city council, if you have questions, we are there to answer them.
Brian Oman isn't here tonight, I didn't see anything else, and he was gonna come in tonight. But, they met Terry and the group, and, Brian thinks that they could work well together. Like even the findings of fact, they wouldn't necessarily need to be here for the meetings, they give them the findings of fact, and it's actually up to the planning commission to decide and then move it on to the council, so. Hopefully there's not a lot of in-person time at planning commission for the planning part of it. So that would save a lot of costs.
And how soon is your issue or your series of issues coming up with planning and zoning?
Well, right now we got a public hearing on April 12th,
Okay.
I believe it is. And then, the next one is in the pipeline. He's got the application, and we've got 60 days from the time they bring it in and pay for it to have it approved, so otherwise it's automatically granted, so. There's a timeline thing too, so.
Well, I'm sure Bolton and Mink would need some time prior to that, correct? I mean, are these decisions made on that April 12th date?
They would need time to put this together before the April 12th
Right,
meeting,
right.
yes, and have it ready for the planning commission, correct. But I think it's a win-win for the city, actually, at this point.
We have two parts here, so do we want to discuss the planning, or zoning and ordinances that they came up and met with, or do we wanna vote on hiring them for?
What I've heard so far about the plan, it sounds solid, and, it sounds like we should, make haste to move forward and, make a decision tonight.
I think, when is the end of, that comes up, the end of advertising for this position?
This Friday.
This Friday, so. Chances are of finding somebody, at least at this point, are probably not very good. I mean, this is our second round of, we've advertised for 4 weeks, at least, 5 weeks. So the only reason I try to keep it separate, because the next one's a little more cumbersome.
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah, so I guess, are there questions, any more questions regarding the planning service?
No, I agree with Councilmember Giuliani. I think now would be the time that we're separating these two out, we take one at a time. I think this is I know Bolton and Mink has been here for a long time. I've met both Jenny and Harry before. They sat through one of our planning and zoning commission meetings. And I think for the most part, the commission was impressed with what they heard. You know, this is a little different situation. I like the rates. I think the rates are a lot lower than the 80 or 100K that we would pay. Doesn't sound like we have somebody coming in. Is there a term on the contract if we were to do something like this? How does that work? Is it just per request, per service?
So I'm going to admit, I'm not as familiar with that side of it. So most of my time is concerned with the public sector, and unfortunately it's not been with the contracts part of it. So I'd have to get back to you on that. I know that there is going to be a contract, and that is going to be worked out with you, so we're not holding you to anything right now, if that makes sense.
right, and I think, a contract, it can be terminated anytime.
Right, yeah, I'm sure that there's laws in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
But I think they want a contract for what we're gonna pay, that issue, so that'd be forthcoming if you guys approve.
And I mean, if you do happen to get an applicant within the next couple of days, we also understand, that's how it goes.
So as far as the zoning part of it goes, it would be on an as-issue arises basis,
Yes, yeah,
and, would the rates be the same,
yes, they wouldn't change.
hourly rates?
Yeah, if they were to change, we would let you know if they were going to change.
Okay, well, let's move forward. I would like to, have somebody, make a proposal here to move forward and vote on this. I think that, planning is definitely something we need, so.
We're just putting on the planning?
Yeah, let's just vote on the planning. So I'm gonna make a motion to, hire Bolton and Mink for our planning services portion, with Jenny Faulkner, Harry Davis, and Fran Nielsen. Do I have a second?
I would second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much. Second one we got on is, we contact Bolton Mink about their planning services as far as redoing or reviewing our codes, our zoning codes. And that'll be a little bit bigger project. They put together a proposal for us, and you have it in front of you. A little spendy, but it's a little bit of work that needs to be done. Brought it before the planning commission, the proposal, they reviewed it and had a chance to interview with Jenny and Harry, and they had, they felt pretty comfortable with them. Like I say, it's gonna be a little bit of a task to do. They'll come up, get the ball rolling with the planning commission, I believe. Let the planning commission go to work on it, and then you guys will come up like 4 meetings, I think, is what is scheduled. Don't hold me to that, but something like that. So, but it's painstaking to go through, but it needs to be recodified and redone, and reworded. There's things in there that are probably outdated, per se. You had a chance to review them, I'll let you go ahead and do your spiel, but then I'll have other stuff to add it when you're done.
Sure, yes, thank you again, council. It's not really a spiel, I have the opportunity to work with a lot of different codes in a lot of different cities. I don't think that yours is necessarily bad, but I do feel like that there are definitely some things that we can improve upon. Order is one of them, making sure that things are updated, there isn't any mention of hardship, that it's a practical difficulty when it comes to variances. We did outline sort of a few things of what the code update would be in terms of what we'd be looking at and what we would be able to update. If we're looking at things like adding zoning districts or any of that, I think that gets a little bit larger and that's a bigger conversation. But to make sure that everything is, one, digitized, and two, that it's complete, those are kind of givens. I think what we would really like to do is to work with your planning commission, and I believe there are 4 workshops that we do have planned in there to make sure that we are covering all the issues and that we're addressing everything. It would be, starting in probably about April or May and then ending in about January or February of next year. I do think that the cost is in there, I think it's about 2,300, I think it's what, 23,000.
We could change it to 23.
I would like to do that.
Yeah, it's 22,950 total.
Yeah, so, the first proposal that we had, just to make sure that you guys are familiar with any and all the changes that have happened since planning commission, I did go back myself and amend that proposal. Just some things to note, we were, I think, about 23,000 and like $300 is what sticks in my head before, and now we are below that. Some of that is having to play with some of the hours and making sure that we have enough in there in order to do a 4th workshop. And I didn't really want to go anything, go any larger and sort of just kind of surprise you guys in between planning commission and city council. So I did tweak those numbers a little bit in order to still work out below that original amount. But that 4th workshop is in there, making sure that you have a Word document at the end. I'm very much in favor of you guys being able to edit your own stuff. I want to be able to teach people to fish, not fish for them all the time. So I'd rather you guys have all of that and be able to amend it. I think maybe a few other small changes in there, but really, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Also, it'll be website ready. Right?
Yeah. I do have a question for you on that.
Yeah.
Let's just hypothetically say that the website doesn't happen this year, not that it's not going to, but let's just, I'm comparing it to another bid that we have, and they included like a hosting fee. So let's say we don't have a website, is there a spot that you guys can host it for us? And so if somebody does a search, they can pull these zoning ordinances up?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Yeah, we have so many different file sharing systems. I don't see why we couldn't. And that'd be pretty easy to do. I mean, OneDrive, Dropbox, any of those are
Okay.
perfectly suited to that. Until you're able to find,
Until we get one up.
right, yeah, until you find the right company or the right person to do your website and have that set up, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Did you notice anywhere where, the last time the zoning ordinances were updated?
2014, I believe.
Yeah, it almost seemed, in some ways it seemed all over the place, and I'm still not sure that I have the final version, which I'm sad to say. I think Jenny was able to figure it out, I don't think I was able to figure it out on my own. But, yeah, I think it was 1014, yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
I have a practical question, if I may.
Yeah, please.
What experience does Bolton have using something like Municode or some other, service where these things get published and then are maintained by that service?
Are you asking as a part of this project? or
As a
just
part of the
in general?
project, in other words, as an outcome of the project.
Okay. I'm less familiar with that side of it, but I know, I've used Municode most of my career. In various other cities, a lot of them being in Minnesota. You know, that, personally, that service is sometimes really good, being able to, you know, be able to search the entire thing, make that very, public-facing, very easy to navigate in some ways. I think that there are some parts of it, like making updates to it, that seem a little bit more cumbersome. But I don't see why at the end of this process, you know, being able to have a Word doc and taking that to Unicode, I don't see why that couldn't happen. I don't know if we would be the one to do that, Bolton Bank would, but, you know, we'd be able to, you know, I'd be happy to help facilitate and sort of make that happen if you want to put it in Unicode.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I don't wanna get lost in the weeds, it's very easy to do, but, for the benefit of the council, Municode is one of several services that is out there, and you publish your ordinances, they codify it, they have a search mechanism and so forth, and the reason I was asking whether Bolton Mink had, experience with it is I know that when you're formulating a code, if you coordinate it with them, it's much easier to put it, then it's out. And whether you've got your site or whether you don't wanna burden your site with that much information, it's something that everybody's familiar with when they check it. What I don't know is what it'll cost. That's one of the reasons I was asking, whether they, cause as I go through, the cities in Minnesota that use it, I see, Caledonia, it's a smaller town, I suppose, like Taylor's Falls. Deer River, Ada, which is, I suppose it's an urban center if you live up in Deep River Falls area, but, you know, it's, bottom line is that a lot of people use the service, and maybe that's a way of doing the publication without burdening what you're trying to do on the website. So I was asking because I thought maybe you knew probably a little bit more about that, but I can inform myself too and inform the council.
I wish I knew more about their costs, but I
Yeah,
don't, I'm
okay.
sorry.
City of Lindstrom also uses a service like that, it's not that one, but it's, I forget the name of it, but I've seen on their website.
Most
Yeah,
of-
you get a link to this thing and it's, so it searches and does
Once your
everything.
codes are done, then you beat it
Right.
out to them.
Right. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
No, thanks, I'm learning a lot, I wrote it down, I'm gonna bring it on Google. Larry, do you have any questions on the zoning and ordinances proposal?
Well, it's a little pricey, but, you know, probably with this, what we would be paying to hire somebody full-time here in the office would be probably more than this amount here. So, you know, to have it professionally done and, you know, have somebody that we can rely back to with questions, I think it makes a lot of sense.
It looks pretty good to me, I think.
And I'm going to thank you for coming up on the planning side. And letting you know I was at that meeting, I was taking minutes, so I wasn't able to express my opinion there. I was filling in for the mayor, but I am able to do that now, so I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I think the cost is high right now, and going back to our current situation and where we're at, that is a little disconcerting. disconcerting. I was at that meeting, Len, and I'm really not disagreeing with you. I think it was very enlightening for the commission, to hear what you had to say. I didn't get the feeling that they were, extremely excited about going forward at this time. However, what you were able to point out to them was that we do need to do something, we do need to do something fairly quickly. We had a great discussion, or I listened and took minutes on a great discussion about we need to start with the comprehensive plan. No, this is too important, we need to do the zoning ordinances now, and then it went back to the comprehensive plan. You can't have zoning ordinances without the comprehensive plan, remember that? And then somebody made a good point, how much has downtown changed since the comprehensive plan was written? And there hasn't been much change. So I think it was a really great discussion. At this point, and without from what I understand to be the commission's full approval on this, I'm going to back down at this point on this particular issue. But thank you for coming up on the planning part of it. I think that's going to be a great asset for us, especially at this time.
I think my conversations were after the meeting, they came up and talked to me about it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why they felt comfortable.
Oh, yeah, and I did too. I think it was a very comfortable meeting. It's very enlightening for everybody. But I think they also mentioned they had some more quotes to consider, right, or see, and they haven't yet.
Right. Now, in talking to some of them, they thought the timeline was a little long, they thought they could bang it out quicker than that, hopefully. And so that would be a good thing too, but it depends how cumbersome it gets once they start.
I gotta say thank you. I mean, you guys have been wonderful. This is the third trip that you came on, as a company, second for you, Mary. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yep, we have not received a bill from you guys at all, and you guys are keeping, staying involved, so I really wanna appreciate it. I mean, I don't know where you live, but I'm sure you're driving farther than a couple minutes, so thank you so much. When I was at the planning, meeting, before I had to go downstairs and take care of another meeting, the commission did ask to get a second opinion, or a second quote. We were really fortunate enough, the League of Minnesota Cities does offer a type of service to help us update. I don't know if you know much about that. I mean, there's nobody here from the League of Minnesota Cities, so I mean, I'm not asking you to pitch for them, but they provided us with some information on how they can, they have a list, so two options. We go to League, they'll redo all of them. We just say, this is what we want. It's judged by the size of the city. So they have a customized code database, and it just shoots it out and it builds us codes. Or you can send our codes and they can go through them like these guys are doing. And so I just want to do what's right for the community and get more than one quote, because we did get dinged for that. If we do what the league offers, it's for a population of 2,000 or less, where they just give us basic codes. It's standard, it's just gonna put Taylor's Falls in their codes, right? It's not anything particular for us. It's $880. If we want them to update existing codes, which I'm more apt to say we stick with what we have and update it, they don't give a price on that. We have to send it all to them electronically, and then they go from there. They do offer hosting it online through the league. I'm not sure what site it is, and that was anywhere from $200 to $450 a year for them to host them after they're done. So not a lot of personal touch. I enjoy these fine people. They've been really involved already. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we have two quotes so far. So I personally think we need to find the money and move forward with Bolton Mink. That's where I'm at. I would like to do that. We don't necessarily have to make a decision right now. We can think about it and then discuss on the next meeting when Tim's here, as a full council, and that'll give us time to kind of look at this and do our due diligence. I for one would like to see our partnership grow. So, but it's just me. So if we wanna table passing the zoning ordinance and, to the next one.
I'll make a motion to postpone to a definite
Do you
period.
have anything else you wanted to add? Yeah, okay, go for it. Yep.
there's another whole book back there that's gonna have to be reviewed. And that's gonna be painstakingly to go through. Unfortunately, that's gonna fall on the council to do. Cause a lot of it's nuisance, you know, type of things. It's page for page, you know. Some of it's obsolete, say like the doctor one, that's something that you guys gotta need to do and go through and delete. That's not part of what they're offering here today, but somehow that's gonna have to get digitized and put out there also. What you got there, Larry, yeah. It's pretty thick, the zoning code is about this thick, and that other book that I have is thick. But that's something that the council's gonna have to start going to. Workshop or whatever, to start going to. I just wanna bring you up to date on that, cause it's really something that's gotta be reviewed.
Right, and I think some of these options that we have are applicable to that as well. What our attorney brought up with this Municode code, there's another one, Civic Plus. So I think we should look at some of those opportunities as well, certainly on the municipal code. The zoning code is a bigger animal, in my opinion.
Yes, that's definitely.
All right, and you were gonna make.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to postpone this until a definite period of time, probably our next meeting.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Harry.
Appreciate it. We'll let you know on our next meeting, we'll get it on and we'll make the decision on the fun part.
Absolutely. You don't have to come up again.
No.
Unless you really like this.
All right, second, thing on new business is the Secretary Pro Tem, the timeline. I put that on there. I just want to bring it up to council that we, need to work with our personnel. I'm working with them, as obviously I'm the liaison, but, we need to, think about when Faye's done. Cause we're not caught up, but we're not getting behind right now, but if Faye leaves, we might, and so I just keep that in our minds. We do have Michelle, she's going to come to that the April 12th meeting and try doing minutes, she said, and, I know Mary's trying to help her get to that point, so she's a little timid. I tried to get her to come tonight, but she had to go buy a vehicle today, so, last minute notice, so,
I can give her pointers on how to organize
okay.
to make the job easier.
Okay, wonderful. Next time you come in, we'll schedule some time in my office and we can work with her on that. So, I think that would be good for her, and then we don't have to put more on Mary's plate, so. Any questions on that?
Just a thank you to Faye once again.
Yeah. I would say like timeline wise, we should look, after our meeting in April to have some. So, if you're okay with one more after the meeting, we'll talk later. But that. Any other discussion, Lee? No, all right. The next one is, the community center use from the Concerned Citizens Group. I have them on there for a different reason, but I'd like to hear, they want to, rent out the community center for an event they have coming up or two. Would one of them like to tell us about what we have going on?
We're asking to use the, community center on April 13th, that's a Thursday. We're having a community gathering, and it's going to be set up, much like booths, only there'll be tables. And we'll be, offering discussion, or there won't be a speaker per se, but each booth will have something to offer the public, such as the community garden. We will have a booth with information on all of the city committees, and we will have applications available for those people that want to take those home. It's an in and out kind of thing. It starts at 6:30, but you can come in, do your thing, learn what you want to learn, and leave whenever you want. It's not something where you have to sit down and stay for hours. So, we hope everybody can be there, and we hope you will allow us to have that opportunity. And
Don't
refreshments will be served by Tana.
No, not just by
No. The other thing I wanted to say to you is we are also planning on April 20th, I believe, a downtown cleanup. May, I'm sorry, May 20th. And that will start early in the morning. I've talked to the mayor about having a garbage receptacle, a big one, on the Marmon parking lot so we can stuff in very rapidly. And we hope we can have both the fire department and public works helping us. So think about that because we need lots of help.
Thank you.
Is this on the community center?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what Harry was talking to me, but did you guys, all we need is clarification is who gets free rental of the
Yep.
community center. Right now, they're not on the list, and Michelle looked at it and said, well, how do I know these guys get free rental? Well, it's not in our authority to give that, so it's sitting in your lap.
I was gonna bring that up. So, we have a list on the back of the rental form for non-exempt groups, and so they're not listed. They asked me if I could do it, I said, nope, we all have to talk about it, so, that was my reason of putting, this on the agenda, so, I don't know what everybody thinks.
Well, essentially, they're a group of private citizens, and so, I don't see why they should be exempt if we charge other private citizens to use the community center.
I don't have a problem with it at all. I would certainly be in favor of adding them to the list so they can use it. Taylor's Falls Concerned Citizens is a new group that started up. They've been very active and very involved. They've been a big part of changing our community, bringing people to these meetings, keeping people informed, actually putting information on their website that we aren't able to do because we don't have one. So I think for that reason alone, I would certainly be in favor of having Taylor's Falls Concerned Citizens added to that list so they can use the community center.
I'm in agreement with Troy. They've been cleaning, done a bunch of cleaning there at the community center last fall, did some cleanup, helped out. They've been helping the city a lot. They should be added.
Well, if we wanna vote to add them to the exempt list, we need a motion to do so.
I will make the motion to add Taylor's Falls Concerned Citizens to the exempt list for the community center.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We're doing it backwards, we should have did that before we talked, but that's all right. Any other discussion, or do you have anything else? No. Okay.
Who made the second?
Lee. All right, Lee, do you have anything else? Troy, do you have anything else? Okay, let's vote then. All in favor of putting the Concerned Citizens Network group on the exempt list for the community center? All say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
All right, next is our new superintendent of public works, Kevin Gruber, is gonna give us an update. Come on up. Sorry, I couldn't say hi to you earlier.
So I started on this past Tuesday.
Could you speak up, please? It's hard to hear back here.
Sure.
Move your mic a little closer, there you go.
I started this past Tuesday, so I have 5 days on the job. And Paul's slowly getting me caught up on everything going on, and I enjoying the community. And I'm from a small town in Wisconsin, about 5 hours away. So, moved up here a year ago. I bought a house in Schaefer and worked a year at the city of Ridley. And now I wanted to venture into something a little bit more hands-on and back to more variety. I come from a family that my father's director of public works for 37 years, so I have a lot of knowledge to fall back on if I have questions. But it's been nice getting to know everybody, and everybody's been real helpful so far.
Great. So, were you in the Minocqua area, or?
No.
No?
Fond du Lac area.
Oh, okay, all right, very nice, all right. Mary did say that it's a pleasure having you in there, and, she really excited about having you there, and she said thanks for starting to go through the computer and finding everything,
Yeah.
so. And I wanted to pass it on since she couldn't be here today, so you're doing awesome from what I hear.
I have a question, and I know it's only been 5 days, but, have you done any monitoring on the possibility of high water along the St. Croix and our neck of the woods? I know they're already, sandbagging down in Stillwater. And do you recall, years ago, water came almost as high as the lift station. And we were all down there sandbagging, I can't remember the year, but it seems like with the amount of snow that we've had this winter, that could be a possibility again this year.
I got an email from the Minnesota Department, and they will keep us updated as far as when they think it will get that high. And going through the desk, I found a, incident that happened in 2019 where the lift station was backed up, but I don't believe it was on our end. It was a check valve on private property, and it ended up causing a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But, we're watching levels as far as the daily lift station. It's gone up, roughly about a half of, normal pumping cycle so far, so I think right now they're okay. Hopefully it's a slow warm up and nothing too crazy warm.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we're on top of it. As
Thank you.
much as I can
Thank you.
at this point.
Well, no, Kevin, I ran into, was it Friday?
Yep.
General the garbage cans, yes. Welcome again to Taylor's Falls. What town are you in Wisconsin now? Do you live in Wisconsin now, or?
No, I live in Schaefer.
You live in Schaefer, okay, so you were, Fond du Lac is where you were raised.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
are you still a Packers fan?
Yes.
Can be admitted.
You'll never take that.
No, I have nothing to say. Thank you. We're working hard at kind of rebuilding and getting ourselves out, and we value public service and public servants, and I think you're gonna fit in really well.
Thank you.
Have to give a nice applause for Paul too, he's been amazing.
Yes.
That's one thing I wanna say is that I talked to Paul for 3 hours after I was off the job, just to get understanding and sort of something I'm going to be leaning on for a while, so it was very nice to have him. Also, Tim did a lot for me. I didn't get a chance to talk to Lee as much, but already I can see he's one of the guys that I can lean on.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything
Thanks,
you're doing.
Kevin.
Yeah, and then, if you wanna chime in on our next one too, you're welcome to stay and talk. We were talking about, everybody done with our welcome? Okay.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, welcome, thank you. Summer temp, for our public works department, I think in the past we've had 2, am I right?
Yes.
I know Paul said that he doesn't know if the son can come back and get a check with him. So I guess, we need to get on the ball for hiring, because we're already behind the cities around us, so. Have you had anybody reaching out that might wanna come back?
Yeah, we have 2 people that, actually the cleaning lady, her son.
Okay.
He just doesn't turn 16 till June 24th, I believe, but we can at least get him in here and, do trash pickup and.
Okay.
And who's the other one? You said you have 2 people.
I believe it's one of his friends, they're both in the
Okay.
same age bracket,
Okay.
but I believe Dylan's gonna be here tomorrow, so I'm gonna sit down and talk to him and just see where he's at.
Okay. Keith, let us know, or let Lee know, and then if we need to get a posting, we'll have Mary go.
Yeah, I was working, I talked to him the other day, I was
Okay.
gonna put something together, at least some bullet points to.
And then we can get it to Saugatuck Press and then, get it online as well.
Also.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on that? No? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks.
Next up is, feeding deer. So, we've had some people complain about, some residents feeding deer, and then we have residents that are loving feeding deer. And so, I don't hunt Wisconsin, so I don't get the pleasure of hunting over a bay pile, but, we do have an ordinance, we did put it in there, we don't really even need to talk about it now, and the reason being, and we didn't get this in the packet, we have copies Troy made for me on the back, but we did some more digging, and the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources actually has a feeding ban entirely in Chisago County, so, if you have concerns about feeding of deer, feel free to call us, but we're just gonna tell you to call the DNR, cause they're gonna be superseding everything that we have in place, they supersede our ordinance. Usually you could start feeding them here in a couple weeks, and I recommend that. So, but you do what you wanna do, I'm not gonna be your police, but if people wanna, I would reach out to our local enforcement officer. Last time I talked to one, he was in North Branch, and he came out to my house, cause I had some questions, so. Any questions up here?
No, I don't have any questions, just have a comment. I wanna, I don't know who brought this up, but thank you. That, you know, the best way is to go to your neighbor and talk to them, and sometimes you just can't do that. The other opportunity we have had in the past, and we should have, is a citizen complaint form, that's available that you could fill out and send to us. And this is the other way, bringing it to the council so we can discuss it and make everybody aware of the ordinance that we have and the restrictions that the DNR has. We had, I think Molly was talking last time about a deer that was hit on the road, and we had a discussion on deer crossing, and it's one of the first things I thought of is, well, if we've got people feeding them, we're just bringing them into this area. Not to mention the plants that they might chew on, or the gardens that they might get into, or anything else, so. Dogs, they might get all excited and want to go after them, so. Like I said, I would just appreciate you bringing it forward, and please keep doing that, and we will respond.
That's about it, but right along with feeding the deer is, everybody, sorry to say, is probably gonna have to think about taking their bird feeders in, because the bears are starting to come out. Just saw pictures of one somebody took from up by Cushing or someplace up there, and come out of the den with 2 cubs, so, yeah, they're gonna be starting to come out, and everybody knows that we got them around here, so.
And not just a few.
Yeah, not just a few, there's a bunch. So you wanna keep that in mind.
Well, I'm proactive. I planted a extra hosta last summer to enhance the deer stunts experience.
There you go. Yeah.
Are you gonna bring back that, citywide hunt, archery hunt?
I'd like to, I was, I mean, that's something that I was interested in too, so, when I get some free time, I'll look up and we'll put it on how about we get it on in May?
Gonna start in September.
Yeah, so I know you gotta have some testing done, and, right, you have to get licensed, and you have to have a marksmanship, so, yeah, I would like to see that again.
I actually have some questions about that because I haven't been able to find it. I'm zoned rural agriculture, I've got 50 acres, and I'm still within city limits. And I tried to, because nothing's on the website, right? I tried to find the zoning ordinances for hunting. I've got problems with bear, and I've got problems with deer, and they're just obnoxiously pesky. Last year we caught, I think, or the year before last, I think it was, at least 5 bear on my property, and including at least 1 mother with 2 cubs and possibly a mother with 3 cubs, and many others. And because the farmland in my area has been taken up by other things, the bear are now concentrating on my farm. They're wreaking havoc in my field, in my crops. But I could not find any information about hunting or hunting requirements. I am over 60, the DNR told me, and then called the sheriff, I called the sheriff, they just said, well, follow the county because we don't see anything that we can find about Taylor's Falls hunting requirements. So it would be helpful to know what the requirements are, and it would be helpful if when you write the planning, go through the planning review, that you distinguish between downtown where you have all these different houses so close together and rural agriculture, because literally my neighbor shares a field with me. He can stand on his side and use a shotgun, and I have to, on my side, be in a stand and use archery only,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
I agree. There's some ordinances out there that.
And,
if you
and
have
there,
acreage-
there's nothing in the ordinances that address nuisance bears or what to do, you know, if we can start to call those or not.
Sure. I mean, I've always been told that you call the DNR if it's a nuisance and then they issue a tag. I don't think we're in a non-quota area, so as far as inside city limits, I couldn't.
Yeah,
tell
but
you
see,
that,
that's
so,
the
yeah.
issue. They didn't even know what to say because it's in city limits.
But before we're done tonight, let's chat quick. I'll get your
Okay.
contact. I'll find it for you.
Okay.
So. Any other discussion? And if they do change it, obviously it goes back to the ordinance where you can start feeding May 1st. So right now, I don't foresee that happening anytime soon, so. All right, let's move on to number 7. It is deer crossing signs. This is a follow-up to Molly, during our public forum last week, or 2 weeks ago. Our Public Works and they worked together to find an answer for you. And I don't know if you'd like to talk or if you want me to.
You can.
Basically what we did is we reached out to the Minnesota Department of Transportation. We also reached out to the county, and both no longer issue deer crossing signs. So we tried. I don't know what else to say. So they stopped doing that. We put it in there. They said it just didn't. When we talked to one guy, he said it just doesn't help, and so they just stopped putting money into it. So I hear your complaint. I understand. It's just what they said. So there's no way we can get.
Sure. I'm sure once we all stop feeding the deer, it won't be a problem.
Do you have any questions? Okay, all right. Larry, any comments?
Well, there's a little blurb in our packet from MinDOT, and there is some statistics that research shows that deer crossing warning signs do not reduce deer vehicle crashes. Signs alone are ineffective at slowing down people or changing driving behavior. And you know, I see people tearing up and down Mulberry all the time, disregarding the speed limits. So if we're gonna, you know, avoid hitting deer, we need to, you know, maybe take a closer look at, you know, the speed limits in town, or try to enforce them, or make people a little more aware of the danger of speeding through town.
Any other discussion? I agree with you. Yep, 100%. I saw some concern about some speeding in town, so we'll work with the sheriff's department on maybe we can put some, an empty car out there to slow people down. I don't know, we'll figure it out, but we're aware of it. We're the post online, and we'll do our best to help. All right, number 8, new business is the fee schedule. We basically, we need to update the chicken permit. We need to adopt the actual fee. Lynn, you all right?
Right, it just got missed on the fee schedule when they adopted the fee of $25, so.
So that's basically what we need to, unless we wanna up it, it's $25 to have a chicken coop in town, no roosters. And it doesn't matter if you're, there is acreage listed in there though, right? In this one, there is acreage.
No.
Isn't it? There isn't? Okay, well, there you go, we probably have to look at that too. Cause I think you can have, what, 6 with no rooster right now in town?
Yeah, I believe so, I don't know.
Okay. So, we're not there to update it yet, but, what we need to do is, we need to make a motion to adopt the $25 so we can put it on the fee schedule.
I will make the motion to adopt to add the chicken permit application fee of $25 to the fee schedule.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then, number 9 is our, our temporary office assistant, Michelle. She's doing a great job. We only gave her 20 hours a week, and she's been working out really well for us, so I would like to ask the council for me to give permission to Michelle and Mary, to increase it up to 30 if we feel we need her here, for 30 hours. I think there's a lot of training that we're currently trying to smash into, 20 hours we have, her right now. We don't have to do anything different with, express employment right now. And Michelle said she'd be, open to working some more hours, so,
And just a clarification, it is for Michelle up to 30 hours. You said Michelle and Mary. So
Yes.
Mary's giving her the ability, Mary is giving Michelle the ability to work. up to
yeah, she
30
just
hours.
asked if I could ask, and I agree with her. I mean, I've been up here a lot lately, and, she's working out really well, so I don't wanna keep her from, learning more and more and getting better and better, so. But I can't do that on my own, so I need to come to you guys and ask if I can increase it to 30 hours.
I'm okay with it. I mean, she's
Yep.
working out great, and, it's a big help to Mary too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make the motion if you need one, but
Yep.
yes, I agree.
Okay, so we have a motion to increase Michelle's hours to 30 hours a week. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. What everybody's been waiting for is our healthcare freedom of choice resolution that we will be discussing. Before we get into the discussion, I don't have many of these. Is there anybody holding on to one of these to discuss or wants to discuss that did fill this out? After we get through these, just raise your hand. We are treating this as a public open forum, so we're asking everybody to treat each other with dignity. We will do the same. We're here to listen to everybody. We haven't voted on anything. This is not a binding resolution. This is not a law. I've had a couple people call today, showing concerns that, it's gonna increase lawlessness if, we go down into another pandemic. That is not the point of this. The point is to make sure that everybody knows they have a freedom of choice for their health, their family's health, and also their businesses. They can tell, you if you wanna shop there. If you want them to wear a mask, they have to wear a mask. It's your business. If you wanna do that, and you don't wanna have a mask, you can post that. Just keep in mind that this does not keep the state or the federal government from coming in and telling you what you have to do. This is not a law. This is just a recommendation that we're sending to the state for some of our citizens that have reached out and asked for this. That being said, Deb, you are first. Please join us.
Brandon, I appreciate your help, Mayor Brandon.
You probably
Appreciate what you have to say, although the resolution does not read like that. So, regarding proposed resolution 2023-03-02, I just, author unknown, because I didn't see an author on the resolution. It is truly difficult to know just where to begin with this ridiculous resolution. So I will attempt to organize my comments into 3 categories. 1, concerns regarding the purpose thereof. 2, the impact and legality. And 3, what's good for the gander. Number 1, what exactly is the purpose of proposing this resolution? There are no mandates in place, either state or federal, regarding mask wearing. There never have been any state or federal mandates in place regarding vaccinations, even when daily death topped 10,000. The attempt to incite political division in our once peaceful little hamlet is made obvious by the inflammatory rhetoric such as individual liberty, freedom of association, and of course the dreaded government mandates. There is not even a hint of effort to make this resolution apolitical, as it represents an extreme anti-community perspective. A community is a place where people live, work, and play together with a feeling of fellowship for one another, and as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. This is what my students learned in 4th grade social studies about civic responsibility. That we care for the mutual welfare of each other, not just what's in it for me alone. If we hope for 10-year-olds to adopt this philosophy, perhaps our city council can do it as well. Number 2, impact and legality. My soon-to-be son-in-law, who holds a law degree and additional advanced degrees from Georgetown University, suggests that I ask the author of this resolution if they had done a cost-benefit analysis on what a policy like this would do to the tourism dollars in our town's economy. Also, would a policy like this require local businesses to serve those customers who are spreading an airborne and highly communicable disease despite its repercussions? Regarding legality, Chapter 1 of the League of Minnesota Cities Handbook stipulates, and I quote, "Local government units have essentially the same relationship to the state because they are established by state law and are subject to state control. In Minnesota, local governments are subject to the absolute sovereignty of the state. To act differently is to break the law." Our own City of Taylor's Falls Personnel Policy, Appendix A, Responsibilities and Roles of the Council and Council Members, Section 2, states that the council shall oversee enforcement and creation of policies, regulations, and ordinances as needed to assure compliance with state statutes, law, and local needs. When each council member and mayor took their oath to support the Constitution of both the United States and the state of Minnesota, I don't believe there was an exception for one's own political views. Number 3, what's good for the gander? This resolution is so poorly constructed as it clearly cherry picks its individual rights. In the second paragraph, whereas, the rights of individuals to bodily autonomy, the right to individual healthcare decision-making, individual liberty, freedom of association, the right to privacy, and the right to work without being forced by one's employer or government to receive a vaccine, and the human rights inherent to making healthcare decisions they deem best for themselves, individually and for their families. What I would suggest is if we were replacing masking and vaccine with women's reproductive choice, including abortion, and trans health care for their children, it would have a completely different effect, but still talking about individual rights. Is this really the work of our local government? I think not. How about getting back to the work, as one of our council members stated last year, the job of fixing roads and maintaining the water and sewer systems? Please, I implore you, do not go down the dangerous political and slippery slope that this resolution presents.
Thank you, Deb. All right, next is Kevin Schuman.
Just with conversations about the resolution, I just suggest, as opposed to listening to other comments, to go to the resolution itself. First, I would call your attention to the heading of the resolution. A resolution supporting healthcare freedom, freedom of choice, and where businesses are empowered with choice and citizens are treated equal. That is the stated goal and purpose of this resolution. Secondly, paragraph 6 adds treated equally with kindness, compassion, and understanding. Thirdly, paragraph 13 clarifies the stated position and policy of the City of Taylor's Falls to neither prohibit nor require the wearing of face masks, as such a decision is the personal decision of the individual. Whatever your choice regarding your personal health care, imagine you were required or mandated to receive the opposite treatment you desire. Would you be willing to accept that? I commend the council for your desire to support freedom of choice for all citizens, and I urge you to pass this resolution to protect the healthcare rights of all citizens of Taylor's Falls. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Carol Schuman.
Regarding resolution 2023-0302. First of all, I would like to say that I'm so thankful that I live in the city of Taylor's Falls. I love living in Taylor's Falls. and I would like to express my appreciation to this council for understanding and supporting the freedoms that are granted to us by the Constitution. The Constitution does three things. Number one, it sets up the structure of our federal government. Two, it limits the power of our federal government. And three, it guarantees our rights as government encroachment. The Ninth Amendment to the Bill of Rights states that certain rights of the people are listed in the Constitution, but that does not mean that their other rights may not be denied or treated as less important. Not every right is or can be listed in the Constitution, so guiding principles are incorporated into the language. The Ninth Amendment reminds us that all rights belong to the people, and that it is the job of the government to protect those rights. Government was created by the people. Government works for the people. Our freedom and our rights belong to the people. That is clearly stated in this resolution. The resolution supports freedom, which is something I greatly value. That is how I understand Resolution 2023-0302. It is a statement that affirms my right to the freedom of making decisions regarding my health care. I don't ask anyone else to accept or understand my personal health care decision. All that I ask is that my freedom to make those decisions is protected. And I implore you to pass this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
All righty. Can you hear me okay?
Can you guys hear?
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you. It's interesting for me. Anybody that knows me, or whether you know me or not, I'm a political activist. It's my core. It's what I do. And I took over Mary Murphy's job as I'm the co-chair precinct of DFL for Senate District 28. So I'm a Democrat, for whatever that means. For me, and what the last speaker spoke elegantly, I just thought she did a wonderful job, and I share a lot of her feelings. Here's where I differ. I don't want to come to this city council. I'm proud of this team, what we got here. You guys are doing a great job. Except, I don't want to have political discussions here. I consider this a political discussion. This to me is being run like a business. You're the CEO, you've got some administrators here. Troy's doing a great job working with the fire department, and we've got with the maintenance and parks and recreation and other issues, personnel. I just can go home and think, hey, these guys are doing the work. They don't get paid enough, honestly. And I appreciate it. For me, it's about, I don't wanna discuss, I want this to be, here's my resolution, let's make this a politically free zone. I don't wanna talk about the issues that are important to me on my side of the aisle. I'll tell you an example. I volunteer at a food shelf twice a week. And when I went through my orientation, tell me to cut off when I'm talking too much. In my orientation, they said, we're glad you're here, and because of something that had happened there, they said, whatever your politics are, and they also, this is their words, whatever your religion is, you leave it at the door. You're here to unload these trucks and help keep these shelves stocked. There's people that come through here. And I'm gonna tell you what I think what happened. There was someone probably a lot like me, who has a little bit of a problem with self-control. And they went in there and they confronted somebody who I would say was probably maybe a Christian person or something like that. And out of line, completely out of line. So because that happened, whoever that person is that confronted that person was way out of line, because that's not the place for it. We have a job there. Our job is my job specifically is to unload trucks when they come in, and nothing else. And that's it. I remember, so I think the gist of what I'm trying to say, if I'm doing any near a good job here, is that I've never brought my political stuff to the city of Taylor's Falls. I've always felt like, I'm not gonna burden the people of Taylor's Falls, or this council with my personal stuff about, in the DFL. And I'm probably what you would call a very moderate DFLer. That's where I'm at. I'm kinda old school union truck driving. When I grew up in Ridgefield, all our dads worked at the Ford plant, or they were plumbers, or whatever. This is where I come from. So that's it for me. I was just gonna make a comment here that I went to, because I'm a political activist, I went to an Iceni County Board of Commissioners meeting, I think it was a week ago. And it's right here, it's approve the Iceni County Second Amendment Dedicated County Resolution. And I'm not gonna speak at an Iceni County, but I wanted to see what they were doing, and they, like tonight, it was real civil, and everybody did a real good job. And there were some guys that got up, I thought for sure, I didn't know what they were gonna say, the guy had gun training, I'm a gun trainer, I'm a good safety guy, stuff like that, he got up and spoke against this. And so, in other words, who knows what people think, but the point of it is the lawyer stepped up afterwards, and I can only paraphrase, I don't know his exact words, but he just basically said, that you all are all committed to support the Constitution. And I personally, if anybody wants to know, I support the Second Amendment all day long. There are restrictions on that, of permits, et cetera, and I happened to have a conversation with Mark Grant about this like about a week ago. I support the Second Amendment, but I also support the fact that people I want them to have a carry permit, and I want them to have a background check. I have a lot of friends that carry guns, and I don't hear them complaining about having to go get that permit. They're all the good guys, I call them the good guys. And, so I guess I'm gonna stop rambling here. Basically, it is about, first of all, I think you're doing a great job on the council. Computers and getting this engineering firm in here, and these people are doing a great, we're gonna get a community kitchen. I think the folks on the Taylor's Falls, Concerned Citizens are doing a good job. They went over and they cleaned up, I wasn't here during the time, but I would've went and helped. Great job of cleaning up the community center. That's the kind of stuff I love. And I think, and I remember a quote from one of my favorite governors, Governor Quee. And I don't know if the governor's still around or not, but Governor Quee was Republican, very devout Christian. And someone had talked to him one time and said, what do you think of, Democrats, Republicans, atheists, Christians? I mean, how does that affect you in your policy making? And I'll shut up here. He said, if I'm at my house and the basement's full of water, and the guy shows up to fix the work, do the work, I want to ask him if he's a Republican or a Democrat, or if he's a Christian or an atheist. He says, I ask him if he knows how to do plumbing. It's just, you guys doing a great job. And you're gonna vote for it. I guess it's gonna go through, whatever the case may be. But I just wanna keep the politics out of Taylor's Falls. I don't care if it's about mask, I don't care if we do anything. We just keep the trains running on time, right? Thank you, Bill, and good job.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Up next is Tana. You're up.
What?
You're up.
Oh, sorry, I was nodding off. Not these meetings get very long, so. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members of the council. Thank you, Mr. New Attorney, whom I have not formally met yet, but I'll try. The sad thing about being not first is people said everything you wanted to say. They already said the things, but here's what I think of that resolution. It's unnecessary. We do not need it. We do not need to spend the time, energy, and effort to pass something that has no teeth. It cannot be enforced, for one thing. And the other thing is, it's divisive. We went through a horrible year this last year, and people are finally starting to get back together, and the whole city is getting back together. And to have something where it's going to divide the city again, some people will be for it, some people won't be for it. And I just don't like the idea of it. One more thing I wanted to say, if this is something that's really against vaccines, what would we have done without polio vaccines? What would we do without measles and mumps vaccines? And you can go back further and find other diseases where they came up with vaccines and it saved so many lives. As far as COVID is concerned, you can look up all kinds of statistics online about how Minnesota ranks compared to other states, and we did really well. And I know a lot of people were angry about the mask mandate and about businesses having to close and this sort of thing. But if you look at us in comparison with a lot of other states, we look good. Oh yeah, we need a system of laws to protect the common good. This is not one of them, as far as I'm concerned. So, and thank you, Deb, because I totally agree. The use of the term bodily autonomy, freedom of choice, connotes a woman's right to choose. So that part of it, I think, is great. There's always been some backlash against vaccines, but in the long run, they save us. That's what they do. So I think there's nothing else I wanted to say other than please don't pass this. That's it. Thank you.
Molly, you're next.
Thank you, Council and Mayor. I realize that we all are not going to agree on this resolution, and that's okay, we can disagree, but I agree that this isn't the place for politics. I think you guys are doing a great job. It's been so nice to come to council meetings, know about stuff, hear about stuff, see stuff getting done, and it's been great. So I feel like, yeah, politics don't need to live here. This council is, like he said, running a town, not having a political agenda. The other thing is that I also hear the side of, well, you know, you want everybody in town to be heard, and I get that. But I think that if you really want to hear from everybody in town, then you should put a petition together and get ballots, you know, get it on the ballot. If that's that important for you guys, then have people put their money where their mouth is and sign to have it on a referendum and do it during an election cycle. And then you will have heard from everybody in town what they really feel about it, and if whatever majority it is, it is. So that would be, I think, a really good way, if you insist on pursuing it, that everybody in town would have a voice on if they agree with it or not. The other thing is, to me, having something like this is a completely moot point. What is the point? The state is gonna override it, the Fed will override it. It's a moot point. We're all getting stirred up about something that has zero teeth, that if the government decides they have to mandate it, and it is about the overall health of our community. It's okay if you guys don't wanna wear masks somewhere, fine. They have curbside pickup, they have delivery, they have all these things. You don't have to go inside of the store and potentially hurt somebody else's health that can't afford to get sick. So it doesn't make sense to me, and I think if you really have to push it, and you feel like you have to push it, then you should leave it up to the voters that live here. That seems like, because we're not gonna agree. There's nobody in here that's gonna agree that it's a good idea or a bad idea. So, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Molly. That's it. I did see, oh, please, Joanne.
Hi, I'm gonna give a little different perspective on this once more.
Okay.
Deborah Scott, I'm a resident of Taylor's Falls. I work from home full-time for a global multinational company that you would all know. I'm working technology, you would all know the name of it if I said it. One thing about my company is that they pride themselves in obeying all jurisdictions for the many, many countries and locations and states and cities that they employ people in, right? I work from home with no contact to the public, no contact with coworkers. In the last 3 years, I have been in an office building exactly once for about 5 hours a couple of weeks ago. There's no need for me to do my job in an office or with the public. I was forced to provide my personal medical information to my employer under the threat of loss of employment. I was forced to prove that I had a vaccine, whether I wanted to or not. If this town had a resolution similar to this one, and I'm gonna say this one does not have teeth in it, and it does not take into account people who are not in contact, and what employers might do for people who are not in contact with anyone else. My employer, if I had been able to show them a resolution from this town, showing them that it was not acceptable, would have likely accepted that and not insisted on taking my personal medical information away from me. Again, this is not just about people who go into stores downtown. It's not just about people who work for the town of Taylor's Falls. There are people who are employed here who don't fit those. And this resolution could have helped me, but it wasn't in place. And if anybody thinks that what happened to us 2 years ago is a one and done, they're delusional. It will happen again. And what you are suggesting is a protection for the citizens of this town to make their own medical choices and to have their personal, private medical information private. So, thank you.
I apologize, I was told I didn't have to fill out a sheet. I'm Diane Deeden, for those of you who don't know me. A couple of things. First of all, I thank both sides for getting on the telephone and letting the community know that there was an issue coming up that was going to affect their community. I'm a little concerned that this came up, whether you had planned on a vote or not, but that it came up without nobody knowing about it. I know some of you did, but I didn't, and I know other people who didn't either. I think, and I have to agree, that if you really want this to be a part of the community, first of all, it needs to be not political, and I feel so political involved in this. But the other thing is, I think you better check with the rest of the citizens in this community. And I'm not saying that you can't or have to wear a mask, but I think about myself. I have many medical conditions, and I wear a mask not only to protect myself, but to protect you. And the other thing is that if I'm going to continue at the library, and I can't tell the people that come into the library that they should wear a mask for my protection, then I won't be the librarian. But it won't be any loss to you. But this is political. And I've always felt, and I haven't lived in this town, but I've lived in the area my whole life. And I've never felt that this town before has been on such a political agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, please.
My name's Mark Laura. Lived here in Taylor's Falls for about 10 years now. A lot of what I wanted to say, I wrote out online and has already been plagiarized and already said, so I'm not going to read what I wrote. I'm basically going to say that this is exactly why the precedent shouldn't be set to dive into these type of matters, because you're going to, I mean, maybe the whole goal was to bring a big turnout and get people more involved in their community, and that's great. You know, we're getting people involved. They're all speaking their side. They're seeing it very peacefully. But if you set this precedent and it goes and it changes, and somebody else wants to say something where, you know, I'm sorry, but that's between you and your employer. it's all at will employment. You don't like that were employers that could employ you in the tech field that didn't follow those same practices. I know I worked in IT during COVID, I understand. But at the same time, it doesn't come down to that's what this community needs to decide on or wade into, get involved in, bring it all out of the weeds where we talk about gun ownership and all this abortion and all that stuff. We don't need that here. We should focus on what benefits our citizens here locally, what helps our town be a wonderful tourist attraction for Midwest, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Twin Cities folks come up here. At the same time, preserve what makes it a small town. I grew up in a small town in Missouri. When I lived up here, I lived in the city. I moved here because I wanted to come back to that. We look out for our neighbors. We're a mixed group of community of people from different backgrounds, different beliefs, but we still be there to get you dug out of the snowbank. We'd still be there to help put out the fire. You know, I work for Rosenbauer, so the firefighting industry is a big part of it. I travel around this country and I go to all these little communities and work in the fire trucks. And I see that community. I deal with the public works people. I deal with the city hall people. And I love that community. And at that small town level, that's where America is beautiful. And bipartisan politics, in my opinion, is ruining. It's causing such a divide that we can't even get along peacefully sometimes at a ball game. And I don't want to see that here. I want to see our community remain beautiful small town. I'll help my neighbor out. I'll have a barbecue. You're welcome to come over. I don't care if you wear a mask or not, but I'm not gonna give you crap for doing it. I don't believe in some of the mandate stuff that was discussed during that period, so there's a lot of things in this resolution that would be language I'm not opposed to, but I don't think this is the field where it needs to be played. I think it can invite this, it can cause division. I'm very happy to see some change after living here for this long, so I am very happy to see. You know, I'm proud of the things that are movements going forward, some of the things being corrected, and I want to see that. I just don't want to see the precedent set where now we're going to start, well, some members of the community would like to have a resolution for this. Well, in the wording of that resolution where it said that we are inclusive to everybody, it didn't say anything about, you know, your sexual orientation. That was omitted. Should I raise a stink and say like, oh, now, as an ally to the gay community, that's not represented? No, I don't think that's the place, because that's no business here. We should just deal with parks. You know, we should be inclusive to all of our people, and the wording can be whatever, but I don't think we even need to start making resolutions. It doesn't make a difference. You can put that resolution in place. Her employer could still say, well, the state level supersedes you, county level supersedes you, federal level supersedes you. That you don't know what your business would have said. They have lawyers too. They would do what they would want to do. It's a business. It's a big evil corporation. They'll do what they want to do. So that's my word. That's just all I'm going to say. I just keep it out of Taylor's balls. Let's just deal with what our citizens deal with on a daily basis.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else like to speak, please?
Can I just sit here and say it? I just think, you can talk about how politically divisive it is, but for the people that actually are for this, we're the ones who have been, who didn't agree with a lot of the things that happened with COVID. We're the ones that kind of got, clobbered over COVID and that kind of thing. We were the ones that, kicked out of places and this and that and the other. We wanted to go on to vacations, you couldn't, and that kind of thing, because we decided we wanted to stick up for our rights and not do certain things. We weren't allowed to do things. We had to go along with it or else. And now what we're trying to do here is just basically say, we don't want that. We just want to basically say, hey, just you do your thing, and we just want to make sure that we're protected for those of us that do agree with it. That's all we're saying. We're not trying to put a divide. We just want to basically say, we're all on the same page here. I guess I'm just kind of wondering what the divide is when we're just I'm really confused on what the divide is and the politics is, I guess. I don't know. I'm not, it's about, we're not coming down on anyone else. Nothing is changing for anyone else. If another person just if this one side wants it and this one side doesn't, what's changed, I guess, as far as that goes? You can say politics, but really what's changed though? If the federal government comes in or the state comes in, okay, it's a moot point then, I agree. you know, but until then, I think it's okay to have it in place for, you know, for people who do see it a little bit differently than someone else.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Okay, John Stamiani, I live in Lindstrom. I came here mostly to find out what was, how this was being, so I got a word of third hand, so I wanted to come in and take a look and just listen to some of the discussions back and forth. And a couple of things have struck me here, and one is that for all the talk about keeping this nonpartisan, it's quite clear that the people that are on one side of the political aisle and the those forward on the other, are on the other side. I didn't see anything in the proposal that was really all that should be that controversial. It's recognizing that, people need to live and let live. And I think back over the last couple of years, there was a tremendous amount of factionalization where people were being virtue signaled and browbeaten into doing things they didn't want to do, or being told they were not being good citizens. And given the amount of disinformation that was present in that time period, and we're now finding out that a lot of it wasn't very truthful, I think that we need to be a little more concerned about thinking, learning the lessons that were available to us from that time, and saying, do we want to be in a situation where we are making people feel unwelcome or less equal because they choose to not agree with the crowd? So I'm looking at this also from the standpoint of bringing this discussion to other communities as well. So I'm thankful for doing this. I lean towards favoring the Constitution over any one political party, and that's kind of my guiding principle on this. But I think that a lot more discussion needs to be done. If this is not going to be suitable for discussion in this forum, yeah, it's going to become partisan political, and it's going to get unpleasant. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
May I add one more comment?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
What he said is very good. So let's move this whole meeting to some neutral building. Let's all have this political, I'm in totally. Let's have a political discussion, not in this room. Not in the city, that's what I'm saying. This gentleman spoke very well. And the lady, I forget, is it Schumann? Mrs. Schumann? Spoke beautifully. I would love to sit down with her and listen to her concerns. And this lady over here with her employment, I would love to sit down and listen to her. All I'm saying, not here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to say anything?
I think it has to be here. And the reason it has to be here is because there's no other place. I mean, we can talk about all this stuff. We're never going to, probably most of us are ever going to agree on it because we reside on different sides of the aisle. But if there are constitutional protections that need to be in place for our citizenry, and this is our local government, this is the right place for it.
Thank you. Anybody else in?
Oh, sure, let me add one more thing. This is very unlikely to happen, but if something like this is a resolution for the city, and it says you have the right to choose whether you want vaccines for your family or not, how might that affect our schools? Our school, how might that affect it? Because if people said, I don't have to have them because the city said I didn't have to have them, we could lose state funding. I mean, this is worst case scenario, of course, but it could happen. That's it. Oh, I wanted to mention one more thing. I think we should all just take a moment and think about the latest school shooting in Tennessee. That was just horrendous, and little 9-year-old kids are dead. And that's all I want to say about that.
Thank you, Dan.
I just wanna ask one question.
Yes,
So,
sir.
the goal of this resolution, what would it actually provide? What would it do? It's just basically stating that Taylor's Falls as an entity feels this way, and if it obviously is fairly divided, making the resolution state that Taylor's Falls feels this way, I guess that just, it kind of puts it in a place to where I'm not against personal freedoms or anything like that. I just don't feel like, I don't wanna force masks on anybody, I don't wanna force vaccines on anybody. This conversation was 2 to 3 years ago. I'm not saying it could never happen again, but like, to try and rebuild our town after we've kind of had a bad time, why are we wanting to get political now? And what does this actually do? What would it actually do? Would it do anything? It would have no say over businesses, private policies. Casey's could still tell you to mask up or get out if that's the way they felt of operating their business. I just don't know what it does. And that's what my main asked question is just what is the goal of it? What would it do?
Well, like I said at the beginning, I mean, it's not binding. So if the state or federal government wants to come in and make another mandate or whatever they wanna do, it does nothing to that. And so, basically, what I think we are saying is that everybody should have their own choice. We're showing it right now, and I think I gotta say, I'm really proud of everybody for like talking and being nice to each other. So kudos to everybody, I really am. I don't watch online. I got phone calls all weekend. Some phone calls were trying to antagonize me to get involved, and I'll never do that. Everybody here, if you don't, you can get my cell phone really easily, because the phones here don't even have my name on them, so they get my cell phone out. So if you ever wanna chat, just call me and come down and have coffee. I'm boiling a lot of maple syrup right now, so come and boil with me if you want. So, but that's what it is. I mean, I see it as we're giving everybody a choice.
Well, we already have the choice.
You do now,
We're
but you
just
didn't-
making,
you didn't 2
we're
years
just
ago.
making a declaration. And but even if you had this resolution in place 2 years ago, we still wouldn't have had a choice. We would have had.
Well, I think everybody always has a choice though, right? I mean, you can follow.
Yes, and that's the
Constitution.
thing too, like if you don't wear a mask, just don't wear a mask. If they take you out of a restaurant, okay, don't go there. There were plenty of places with the border over here open and letting you do whatever you want. I did it too. I went maskless too, and I believed in masks. It's just, it's a bad time, it caused some problems. Let's get over it. Why are we even hashing it out when we should be talking about gardens and community centers and things that I think I just think that that's the right thing.
Thanks, Mark. Actually, we gotta wait for a second. We have one person in the back that hasn't had a chance to talk yet, and she raised her hand.
Me?
Yeah.
Janine Hansen. I'm also visiting because I'm very interested in this resolution from a learning standpoint, and listening to both sides, very understandable. My question is, why are healthcare decisions political? Why is it even considered political if it's a healthcare decision? And the notion of, my body, my choice, that's already a law in Minnesota, my body, my choice. So this extends the my body, my choice. I also know, and I don't wanna speak on behalf of our sheriff, but we had a lot of questions for him during the time when, business had to be closed and, there were a lot of rules in place for employment, et cetera, on vaccines and not vaccines. I do believe that there's a conscientious objection or a religious exemption for vaccines right now in Minnesota, that families are not forced to have their children vaccinated in Minnesota, so that wouldn't change what's happening in the schools as far as I understand. Our sheriff would, for private businesses, support. If a private business said you have to have a mask on when you come in, he would, and that's a private business and somebody wouldn't leave, they would make you leave. That's the private business. But as far as public places or other things, they're not going to intervene in that case. So I think we have a sheriff that loves the Constitution as well. Individual rights are very important, and for those who felt very violated by some of the things that were forced upon people they didn't believe in. Even though it's done and over, there is a concern that it could happen again. So I think for everybody, I have never looked at anybody that said, don't wear a mask around me or don't get a vaccine. So if you're on the other side and you have to do it, it makes a really big difference when you're talking about citizenship, individual freedoms. That's how I'm weighing out what I'm hearing tonight.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I would just say this, and it's been so great listening to everybody. Absolutely, positively, no doubt about it. We could all stand up and say, all the people that are in favor of vaccines over here, all the people that are against vaccines over here. Fine, but that has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with your job and your responsibility. Your responsibility is running this city and not making edicts about what personal beliefs people have, whether it's what I believe or what somebody believes totally opposite. That does not belong in this room. And I think that that's been brought up several times. This young man over here said it very well. And there could be so many of us that you know, we can agree to this, whatever. I think I've heard so much misinformation in here already about, not science-based, blah, 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 blah. I'm not gonna talk about that, because it's not about whether you're for it or against it. It's about, it doesn't belong in this realm.
Amen.
The job of this council is to run this city, not stand up and make, proclamations about what they think is right or wrong with the, as soon as you start using that rhetoric, and I keep hearing it, and I'm hearing it around all of us, nobody in here is more of an American citizen than anybody else here. Nobody here believes in the Constitution or is more patriotic than anybody else here. It just doesn't belong here. It's inappropriate, and I don't know how legal it is for a city to take a stance. I can't wait to hear what our city attorney has to say about it, so. That's all.
Scott?
First of all politics is local.
Yep.
And we are engaged in politics right now. Okay, I read through this, I don't see anything that says anything about being a right issue or a left issue, anything on a side. To me, it seems that this is the city of Taylor's Falls saying, we're not going to take a side. If essentially they're saying, we're not going to force the issue one way or another, we're leaving it up to businesses and local people to make that decision on their own. So I don't see, regardless of what side of the aisle you come from or if you sit in the middle, to me it seems like it's the city saying, we're not going to, force anyone one way or another. So kind of like so many people have said, if you want to wear a mask, if you're for all the stuff, okay, the masks, the shots, all that stuff, great. If you're not for that and you choose not to do any of that, fine. It seems to me that the city is just with this stating that we're going to let the people have their freedoms to choose to do what they wish, and to me it's a vote for freedom. I guess that's all I got to say about it.
In, just as a hypothetical, because I know you used to be a police officer, everybody has their personal freedoms, but this is about other people's health. So we could pass a resolution that says it's completely legal to drive drunk in TF. And we're all okay with that because that's our personal freedom. But when it affects the health of everybody around you, that's the issue. I don't care if you don't wear a mask, but I have a mom who's got stage 4 cancer. And I don't want her to get sick. And I realize that was 2 years ago, but this is about the health of others. That's it. And, a lot of businesses accommodated everybody's choices about not wearing a mask and doing curbside pickup and stuff like that. But a choice it affects the health of other people. And at the time, it was a choice where if you got somebody else sick, they could die from it. There's somebody in this room who just lost her daughter because somebody had COVID, and her daughter got it and passed away from it in the last month.
That'd be
So-
me.
Yep. And so it's about, you know, if I said, hey, you know, I'm gonna drunk drive and tee up, cause we have a resolution that says I can, it's about the health and safety of others, that's it. Doesn't mean you have to wear a mask, it just means we have to take into consideration the health and safety of our whole community. And that particular, with COVID, it affected everybody in different ways, but it was about health and safety, that's it.
But not everybody agreed with what standards though.
I agree,
You know what I
and you know
mean?
what, it was
a
but
lot of
it was also,
misinformation
yeah,
and
and
a lot
it
of
was,
lying
it was
going on.
something that they hadn't seen, it wasn't like we knew anything about it. They tried to do it as best as they could, and they had to look at the overall health of the community.
Thank you, Molly, I appreciate it. I'm gonna, in the interest of time, I'm gonna close our open forum. I'm gonna let our council members speak and of course our attorney. Yes.
I have emails from other citizens that could not be here.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Larry's gonna read some emails that he got from some of the other citizens that couldn't be
Could
here.
you speak into the mic then, Larry, please?
What?
Huh?
Okay, so, this first one, came to me, Friday, from a concerned resident, and it's brief. Although I am a conservative on a few issues, I basically am a yarn-dyed liberal. Therefore, it was distressing to me to read the proposed resolution in the Taylor's Falls City Council packet about the last item on next Monday's agenda, so-called healthcare freedom of choice. I am HO, I'm guessing that's in my humble opinion. No one has a U.S. or Minnesota constitutional right to kill others by carelessly spreading disease. That is not unlike the fact that no one anywhere in the United States has a right to drive on the wrong side of the road. It appears next Monday will go down as a red letter day in the history of Taylor's Falls. It will be a sad end to the generations-long era wherein the government of Taylor's Falls, whenever possible, has steered clear of national political issues. Dark days seem to be ahead. Signed, a concerned resident. This next one is also from a anonymous, very concerned citizen. I will respect their right not to identify them. Larry, I just became aware of this resolution and am acutely aware that it will be very likely to pass by the new council this evening, being as divided as it is, and that fact known by one and all. I am beyond angry, frustrated, and most disturbingly afraid of what more of the same lies ahead. The dark cloud that descended on the city, I'm sorry, Troy, but this is from an anonymous citizen. The dark cloud that descended on the city the minute Troy Anderson was sworn in and has grown larger indeed. His nasty nine and their cult that continues to grow in numbers in the name of the radical Christian national movement will forever change the politics, no, the very landscape of this quaint, scenic, and lovely community, populated by kind citizens who didn't yell and scream, overstep, spread falsehoods, and flat out lie up to their own game. It's exactly what has happened to the rest of the country. May God help us all. Larry, I implore you to ask, who proposed this resolution? Who drafted this resolution? Are you certain that your personal beliefs and personal outrage outweigh those of all others, and that this is the most important issue at hand right now? Please make it a point that you want all citizens to have the ability to speak to this, not just to those who received the council packet by email, and the entire council should be able to discuss this before a vote is taken, which I believe we will do. The author of this resolution wants no local resolutions on their autonomy, which is, in fact, a resolution on the autonomy of others who feel differently. So I ask, who is right here? If this is passed as written, the Taylor's Falls Elementary School would become known as the school where you can enroll your unvaccinated children because you, the parent, knows best. Best of luck, council, finding teachers willing to teach in a school full of children passing diseases around. A secondary school will need to be funded for those in legal opposition to their children being forced to attend a school with the unvaccinated. And best of luck, council, in preventing a woman's health care clinic from opening here because abortion is also a health care issue and illegal in Minnesota. And best of luck, council, with stopping a dispensary of THC products from opening within the city limits. THC products are health care for those with epilepsy, chronic pain, and many other health conditions. The passing of this resolution is the beginning of the end of our local government acting in the best interest of all its citizens. What a giant step backwards. And here's the closing. Larry, feel free to read any or edit at will my comments from an anonymous, very concerned citizen. I know you've got other comments you will be reading.
So you could have left White Christian National South if you wanted to.
Well, I'm just reading what you want.
Okay, I'm just making a point.
Okay. All right. Larry, do you wanna, we're gonna start talking as a council. So in order to do that, I do need a motion, regarding, the Health Freedom of Choice Resolution 2023-0302. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we can now discuss as a council. Larry, would you like to start?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I also have a statement from Councilman Tim Grote, which would I be allowed to read?
Yes, please. Yes, of course.
Well, let's start with mine.
We need a copy of Tim's too. So
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so when I saw that this was on the agenda, my first reaction was to come in here and say, please take it off the agenda. You know, it's inflammatory, it's dividing the city, and there's really no need to discuss this at a council level. But, you know, having seen and heard from other people in the community that this needs to be discussed, you know, I said, well, okay, let's just get on with it, we'll discuss it. So these are my thoughts. So my thoughts are that this resolution 2023-0302 is blatantly political and has no place in Taylor's Falls City Council business. We have more important work to do. We have a city to run and residents' health to protect. In reading resolution 2023-0302, I was reminded that certain council members campaigned on transparency in city government and the desire to heal the divide that has infected our great city. This resolution does neither. It does not fairly represent the views of the entire community, but merely panders to a handful of concerned citizens, and in my opinion, makes the divide even wider. In my almost 20 years of proudly serving on the Taylor Falls City Council, I have strived to serve the entire citizenship and leave the city a better place for those who will serve next, and to be a good steward for this community. It's a fabulous place to live, and I'm very proud to say so. I have my own personal political ideology. Just drive by our house, and you can see where we stand on certain issues. In the past couple of years, some have driven by and stopped to express their own personal opinions in a not so neighborly way, so to speak. Well, I have always made a point to check my political views at the door of City Hall and to fairly and objectively serve the tax-paying residents of our great city. Resolution 2023-02-03 has personal politics written all over it and has no place in our community. It is our primary responsibility as elected officials to assure the health, safety, and welfare and quality of life for all residents in Taylor's Falls. Resolution 2023-0203 falls far short of these responsibilities. We see this type of action happening all over the state and our nation. It's time to take a stand for reality. So to attempt to begin to restore the harmony that is the hallmark of life here in Happy Valley, I in good conscience cannot support this resolution, and would urge the city council to examine their conscience and see if they feel this is right for our city, and to oppose it as well.
Thank you.
And Tim's?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Tim, this is dated March 27, 2023. In regards to resolution 2023-03-02, it seems one or more members of our council are more interested in scoring points with a certain politically ideological faction that actually focuses on focusing on key priorities for the city. The time and the energy taken to draft and debate this matter takes away from what should be more pressing work for the council, and only serves to deepen an already existing rift in our community. Throughout the run-up to the election last fall, I heard candidates voice their desire to heal and move forward. This resolution does nothing but sow division. It is ironic that just a couple of weeks ago, the council decided not to fill the position of public health officer, which the recently departed Dr. Bill Young held for many years. Now the council is considering ignoring our healthcare and public health experts, supposedly knowing better, despite having no medical training or experience that I am aware of. I can only imagine how disappointed and saddened Dr. Young would be with this resolution. Those who drafted this resolution also seem to have a crystal ball and can foresee that there will never be a situation in the future in which the city and its residents would benefit from the interventions they seem to oppose. With this resolution, the authors purport, as author and S in parentheses, purport to support healthcare freedom and freedom of choice, yet it is very narrowly written. If this is one of the key stated goals, why not include all forms of governmental actions that relate to healthcare? My guess is that evoking the word choice is simply a thinly veiled guise and is devoid of consistency and integrity in that regard. With this resolution, the author, and again, S in parentheses, purport to empower businesses with choice. If this is truly the case, I would expect consistency in practice and forthcoming resolutions aimed at eliminating any codes and ordinances the city has that are not elective. With this resolution, the author, again the S in parentheses, purport to treat citizens equally, yet fail to recognize and understand how unequal this would actually play out. Imagine how those citizens who would be most impacted by this, those with chronic illnesses, disabilities, and other underlying health considerations would view this. Would they see themselves as equal, or more probably like a second-class citizen? As one resident communicated to me, Monday will go down as a red-letter day in the history of Taylor's Falls. It will be a sad end to a generations-long era wherein the government of Taylor's Falls, whenever possible, has steered clear of national and political issues. Paraphrasing another sentiment, this is a dark day for the city of Taylor's Falls. Tim Grote, City Council member of Taylor's Falls.
Thank you, Larry. Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Lee?
I think it's a good resolution. Shows your freedom, that all our freedoms were taken away during the COVID. Tells you your freedom of choice. And, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Sure.
I want to thank all of you very much. There's nothing that I can say that is going to be more beautiful than what I saw here tonight. And that means from both of you and from both sides. With all due respect, Deb, this is my job. This is my job. It's to be in this spot, which is extremely uncomfortable tonight, I'll be honest with you, but to hear both the pros and cons of the resolution. You know, if these, in my opinion, the mandates really is what kind of infused the politics into the personal. It made personal issues political. And now I'm here because this was done at higher levels of government, state and federal. Now I'm here in this situation, having to separate those back out. How do I separate the personal and the political when it's been infused so deeply? I mean, how can I, where do I stand? And I will stand with the Constitution. I will stand with our liberties and our rights. I will always do that. I will always defend your rights. I will defend your right to be here and to speak to me in any manner that you wish. I will defend your right to receive the minutes that we've talked about over the past years now. You should be able to see those minutes. That's your right. You have your right to see that. You have a right to speak in a public forum, and now we have it. Tonight we had 2 of them. That hasn't happened in years in Taylor's Falls. That's my purpose, that's my job. My job is to sit here and listen, and yes, this is uncomfortable. You have to make decisions about people that you live with in a very small town. It's not easy to do. I am going to vote in favor of this resolution. I did receive emails and calls, and I want to address some of those real quickly. I won't take any more time because I can't say anything any better than what you've said here tonight. People who are concerned that this is a political issue, I think I've addressed that already. This is not a right or left thing for me. I think the people that really know me know that I have a little bit different perspective. I don't see right versus left as much as I see right versus wrong. I don't see this Republican Democrat as much as I see the institution and the individual. And I don't have a lot of trust for institutions. I never really have. But I do trust individuals, and I trust them to make their own decisions on matters like this, and certainly concerning their health. And I trust our businesses to make their own decisions. I've been through this, I've read it 3 times. I don't see anything threatening here to anybody. It's a very unifying resolution the way I read it. I don't see any divisiveness unless you choose to bring the politics into it. This is very open. It's very inclusive. I saw the word inclusive a couple times. It can be very unifying for this town. The other thing I wanted to bring up is we talked a little bit about TFCC and the group Taylor's Falls Concerned Citizens. There are a lot of people that are doing some really good work and very active in getting involved in this. And I really hope that after this is over, no matter what happens, that we don't let this issue drive us from our higher goal, and that's our community. That's really what our perspective is. That's what we should focus on, and I think we've all done a really good job on that, and I would hope we keep that up. I really don't have anything more to say on it at this point, but thank you again, everybody, for coming here. I really do appreciate it. I love to hear from you no matter what you have to say, so keep it up. Yeah, I'll let that go. I'll let the email go, so.
Thank you. Fritz, do you have anything you'd like to add? I know we had some questions about legality. Do you want to chime in on how it could affect our schools? I know we had somebody that brought that up, Hannah did. I know some people like
specific questions in this particular case, I can certainly answer them.
Please speak up.
Can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
No.
You gotta get right up to it.
Raise your voice if you are in front of a judge.
That's different. This is a context where I usually like to mumble when I can, but you're not gonna let me.
Well,
so
I
that's
appreciate
fine.
you not doing that.
That's fine. I've drafted probably of different flavors, a half dozen of these things at the request of city councils. And as these things go, and most of the heat on this thing, I'm impressed, of course, with the debate here, but most of the heat on this thing happened about a year ago. So I'm a little startled. But as these things go, this doesn't really have the impact that some of the other resolutions that I have seen have. I mean, there are resolutions, I'm looking at one that would prohibit a city employee, for example, make it a disciplinary matter if you were to treat somebody because of the way they were masked or their vaccination status. There are all kinds of much harder ways that these resolutions can be drafted that this does not have. And in those particular cases, as I said then, because I made the statement publicly, you could say that, but you may get yourself and your city into some trouble by doing that. In other words, what kind of concrete things does a resolution do that could create a situation where the city could get sued, which is my primary initial concern. There's none of that in here, so let me just say that this doesn't take those kinds of steps. I know that some of this seems to be code. In other words, people see the resolution in a certain light and are thinking, well, that's what it is, and it is therefore something that I don't like. Honestly, I look at this thing, and the language in this thing, and it's about as soft one of these resolutions as I've seen. And it doesn't really affect anything, you know, that you would be prohibited from regulating. You can't tell the schools how to run the schools. You can't tell a local business that is engaged in practices that are health related that you want to regulate what they can do or cannot do in their place of business. That's something that's usually a jurisdiction of the county. Now, if the county has a resolution like this, and I'm advising the county, I'm probably gonna tell them to watch out for other reasons. You can't do that. What you can do is regulate to a reasonable extent what goes on in this building, or what goes on with your employees. And I was asked by one council to draft something with real teeth. Okay. So how about making it a crime if one of your employees refuses to serve somebody because they're not wearing a mask? Or the alternative, refuse or make it a crime if one of your employees wants to not serve somebody or serve somebody because of their vaccination status. That's deep. And the question that came back to me from the council is, well, we said we wanted to have teeth, we didn't want it to be hard. Well, you know, you have to ask yourself just how hard you want this to be. I look at this and I see this doesn't have any of those things. It doesn't have anything that makes those kinds of requirements where you can get sued by an employee for being forced to do something. Or being sued by a citizen who isn't getting served because of something you did. So it doesn't do those things. Fair question is, what does it do? And it's honestly not clear to me what it actually is supposed to do in terms of the resolution. You state a position in this resolution to neither prohibit nor require the wearing of face masks on city property. And again, this gets into the issue I was talking about where you could regulate. So we're not gonna require or not require it. Or other party acting on the city's behalf by third parties or the city's employees, as such a decision is a personal decision of the individual. So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking at when I'm looking at one of these resolutions, and I'm thinking, what kind of trouble could the city get into if it were to pass this legislation? And I don't see where you get into trouble with that. I don't see why you want to do that necessarily, but, you know, let's say what happens here is you get let's take an example. You've got a situation where you've got a snowplow driver that's out. Sees somebody on the side of the road and, you know, in trouble. Decides that they're not gonna do anything for that person when they come up and go to the car and realize the person's not wearing a mask or something like that. Is that gonna get you in any kind of trouble? And the answer is no. This doesn't do anything like that. This just basically says we're not gonna do anything. We don't like it. All right, you know, you certainly have the authority to say that. But I just want you to know that by passing this resolution, and I want other people that seem to be opposed to this to understand that by passing this resolution, it really is nothing more than a statement of a position generally and has no legal effect.
And why do it? Then why do it?
And I'll answer that question too, if you want, I'm sorry.
Yeah, please.
The council can make statements if it chooses to in a resolution. Usually those kinds of statements and resolutions are things like wishing everybody in the city a Merry Christmas, or, you know, they can do those things. And they're allowed to in their capacity. And if they wanna do something like this, if you wanna do something like this, you can. My concern as your legal counsel is to make sure you're not doing something that would get the city into legal trouble. And so the question in the end that gets asked me is, what kind of legal trouble can the city get into if it passes this resolution? And as I see it, the way it's written, the way it's worded, it's not necessarily the way I would have written it. We're not gonna get into any legal trouble by passing this resolution. So that's a long way around to answering that question, but that is the question.
Claire, do you have anything?
Well, you know, you can sugarcoat this any way you want, but it's my opinion that this is still an injection of politics into the council chambers. You know, we all see it, we all read the newspapers, you know, it's happening all across the state and all across the nation. I don't care what side, what TV channel you watch, one side's for it, one side's against it, but it's there. And there's no business in Taylor's Falls City Council chambers.
Lee, do you have anything to add? Nope. Troy, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I guess I have a question for the attorney real quick, so that there's nothing that's stopping the state from coming in and just ignoring this resolution.
The state would ignore it.
They would ignore it.
But again, this is very hypothetical because we're so far past when these resolutions, you may remember the controversy. And it was coming to a head, because there were any of a number of cities, large cities, that were passing these, anti-mask resolutions, basically, is what they were. And the question was being raised, well, what happens if we have a state mandate? You've got a conflict, and, you know, the state obviously, should supersede, what are you gonna do? And the answer got resolved at some point because essentially the problem took care of itself. Meaning that COVID became less and less of an issue. The state backed away and cities and others backed away. So that question about what happens if you've got somebody that says, we will not enforce, which this doesn't, by the way, we will not enforce a state mandate in our city. And we are directing our employees, and we are directing our police department, and we are directing everybody not to enforce a mandate. And we are telling businesses in our community, and there were communities that were doing that, not to enforce it. And things were just about to come to a head. And everything just kind of calmed down and backed away. What you have now in this resolution, I characterize as sort of the shadows of what was the big fight a year ago. I mean, this, you know, this doesn't do any of those things that I just described. To be sure, the state mandate isn't out there. There is no state mandate right now. But don't have any question in your mind that if one were to occur, it would trump anything, sorry to use that word, it would trump anything that you see in there. See? And the same thing is with the schools. If the schools have a conflict, the schools have the right under the statute to regulate what goes on in the buildings and grounds. You couldn't do that here. The only thing you can do really is regulate your own employees in your own places, you know, in the garage and so forth. And this doesn't even really do that. So, you know, I come back to that.
Okay. Anything else?
Can I ask just a quick question?
Yes, please.
A lot of people have asked who submitted the resolution.
Yeah, I did. I did. Yep.
I just know we took credit, so I just wanted.
Yep, I haven't really talked much, but yep, that was me.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I think so. Thank
All
you.
right.
I got one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Just as a credit to this community, this was a very thoughtful, discussion of a very hot button topic issue. And I think everybody here handled themselves very politely and very intelligently and expressed their views, very clearly. And I'd like to thank everybody for that.
Here. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we need to vote on Healthcare Freedom of Choice Resolution 2023-03-02. All those in favor of passing this resolution, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Resolution passes. Now, our next meeting is the second Monday in, April. And I do want to ask the council to consider only doing one meeting in April. Mary has asked me that, so keep that in the back of mind. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.